We're about to enter the 2020 Overwatch League playoffs. Good luck to the Defiant. In the meantime, there was an off week while the players were prepping, so that's why we have KARQ'S Reviews Fan Edition. Today we have gameplay submitted by Gavel, who is a gold Reinhardt in a duel with their Zarya on King's Row. So let's see what we can do to give them some advice and help them get better. So a little fire strike out the door for some alt charge. I'm okay with this. So right now you saw their comp, you saw a Roadhog in front of you, and your Zarya already burned bubble. This is where I would not recommend fire striking again, because that just puts you at risk of getting hooked. Looks like your Hanzo got a pick, so you're taking a bit more of an aggressive space near the choke. I'm okay with this as well. Now you got anti-nade, and then your Zarya dual bubbled you right away. So with bubble down and shield at half and about to crack, you have to back off and pick a side to break line of sight. Now I actually don't like moving to the left side of statue. Now it's fine here because you saw that they didn't cross yet and come to the left side, but a lot of times most Reins will only go left side statue to match the enemy tank that goes there first. The problem with the side is that if you guys don't have an advantage to begin with and your shield gets cracked, you're kind of stuck in the middle behind the statue in no man's land, right? You don't have immediate cover because the enemy team can cross to that side to help their teammates on their side of the statue, while your teammates most likely playing back on the point or near the hotel. So unless you have a significant numbers advantage, playing up there allows the enemy attackers to pile onto you faster than you guys on defense can pile into them. That's their spot. It can work moving here if your DPS is already in position, whether they're on top left high ground or you have like a Genji on an off angle ready to dash and capitalize, but let's play the replay and see what happens here. So you get hooked and you have to hold your shield up because it's about to crack. Luckily, it looks like your Zarya and Hanzo are actually playing nearby, but you can see how fast the enemy team was right there to back their hog up, right? As this fight carries on, though, your team seems to be getting random picks here and there, so honestly, you keep having a 6 versus 5, so this is already a good start. Back up against the Reaper. Toss a couple fire strikes, build up that ultimate. Not much to say. Your Zarya just grabbed there. Ooh, I don't know about that charge across the map. There are many ways that they probably could have canceled it, but your Hanzo killed the flanking Reaper. You guys are still good. Now, I know you're doing it with your Zarya, but it's very important to communicate the bubbles there, because if you time the bubble better with the swing, you might have already had your Earth Shatter at this point. But instead, you jumped up with your shield up and the bubble. It really didn't get much value at all. And this is like a greedy energy bubble, and I think your Zarya is already at 100% energy anyways. So with the bubble down and a Roadhog Junkrat spamming at your shield, the last thing you want to do is actually move towards the left side here. No bubble, shield about to crack, and you're breaking line of sight of everybody else on your team. And then, yeah, you're just dead. It's very, very important when you play the Rein Zarya comp is that you either need to have your shield, a bubble, or a wall nearby. And then you have no wall, your bubble's down, so you only have your shield, and your shield's about to crack. So with all three things down, you're kind of screwed. Now you're cutting line of sight between the rest of your team too. Like when I play Ana as a support man and I see my Reinhardt up here and he's moving towards the left side, I can't help you at this point, right? This is a big, big, big no-no, especially because you didn't have an Earth Shatter. If you had an Earth Shatter, you might have been able to get away with it. More members of the enemy team were allowed to collapse on you while your team couldn't help you out. You're dead. So as you come out of spawn, your team is actually holding off the enemies. I see your Hanzo uses Dragon, your Ashe got a Dynamite kill, so it's salvageable. Gonna come back on the left side. Awkward angle, but honestly could catch him by surprise, and it seems like the enemy team is actually retreating back to spawn to regroup. You see the Reaper through the wall thanks to your Hanzo Sonic arrow, and I know you're trying to chase him down, but he's running into 3 members of your backline, and then their Ana and Mercy kind of got away. Tough to say in hindsight whether you could have actually killed the Ana, but the Reaper was definitely dead since 3 or 4 of your teammates were looking at Hotel after that Sonic. You really didn't have to go through the front to the backside of Hotel and chase him down. It's a little bit of tunnel vision there. So we'll skip ahead a few seconds to allow the enemy to regroup, and now the next fight's about to break out. Let's see what happens here. You're holding your shield, you see the Reaper drop down. Okay, so your Zarya already bubbled you and your shield's kind of cracking. So I like how you're backing up. This is where you should have retreated in that first fight. You showed yourself there, and that Reaper saw you and he had to back out because he couldn't flank anymore since he was already noticed. Now your Hanzo got a pick, got rezzed, so it's still a neutral 6 versus 6. So if it's back to a 6 versus 6 neutral, there's no reason for you to go back to Hotel here. You're not even being sneaky. This Reaper totally saw you, walks past you. You do get a flank shatter and get the Ana, but at what cost, right? The moment you ditch the front line, that enemy Rein had free reign into your team behind you because you weren't there to protect them anymore. Yes, you shattered the Ana, but then that Reaper also just walked into your backline and got a free Death Blossom and killed 2. Looks like the enemy Rein killed 1 as well, and he turned around to try to charge and pin you as well. So you got 1 at the cost of 3 members of your team dying because you weren't there to protect them. So first point's done. Let's fast forward to the second after you respawn. So here in the second point, you're holding around this library corner. I'm okay with this. Their Junkrat gets really aggressive and was definitely punishable with a few swings, but definitely not a charge there. Let's pause and look at that again. So Junkrat's coming around this corner. He gets way too aggressive, but he bounces back with a mine and actually bounces you after you tried to go for a charge. So he actually bailed you out because if this Junkrat was actually a bit more sneakier, if he was doing that, he would have laid a trap down. And I'm not a fan of you as Rein charging into that library for that reason. A single Junkrat trap would actually mess you up because if you get caught in it in the middle of your charge, you're going to be stuck there with your shield up. Junkrat can walk in and just damage the heck out of you. The rest of their team, maybe Zarya, can walk in and assist them. It probably wouldn't have ended well. Now, I actually didn't see the enemy Junkrat put a trap down, but think about it, right? The higher you climb, sneakier Junkrats would have that trap set out for you. And if you went and just charged off cooldown like that, you just get punished way more than you already are. So with the enemy Junkrat throwing a tire down and killing your enemy Ana, your main support is dead. You got to be careful here. Just come back around the corner, recharge your shield. That's good. They're not pushing yet. All right, on the kill feed, your Junkrat actually got a pick on the Hanzo. It is even. Get a nice fire strike. You're actually up 1. Go for a cheeky charge around this corner. I'm actually a fan of this. I like this. Charging on Reins usually need to be a short charge distance-wise, so there's less time for the enemy to punish you, or it needs to be on a surprise angle. And you rounded the corner and started the charge and timed it right as soon as their Zarya peeked around the corner, so their Zarya didn't have time to reactively bubble themselves in time. So the bubble comes out after as a response to the damage to keep them alive. Your Zarya goes for a grab, and I think you should have just shattered right there. Let me play this out and see what you did, then I'll explain why you should have shattered earlier. Okay, you died. Now, if you look for the shatter right there, remember, you can shatter underneath the payload. You might have knocked down the Reinhardt, and that Reinhardt got sucked into the grab, which protected the Junkrat from getting bursted down. You kind of took an awkward angle, and I think you jumped on the payload, which wasted some time. Timing is everything at this point, right? Grab only lasts a few seconds, and if you waste 1 or 2 seconds walking around and going for a shatter from behind like this, when you could have just shot it underneath the payload, it makes a big difference in this context. So unfortunately, based on where that team fight was lost, the enemy captured the second point. Now you have to play third. Playing around this corner is fine. Holding the shield up against the Zarya, throwing a couple fire strikes to get your ultimate charge. Their Zarya ended up bubbling it for some energy, which is heads up by her. Just stay calm here, back up around the corner. Your Baptiste threw down a panic immortality field, which is bad timing because now the enemy gets the grab, charge you in, Reaper gets a huge ultimate in your backline. This team fight's already done. Hopefully you guys can come back in time to stall. Let's see what happens. We're going to fast forward just a little bit. Okay, I'm not a fan of this charge right away. Okay, let's pause. Rewind this. So when you charge here, that distance from the spawn room to that wall is not that significant. And if you look out here, your Ashe was still alive and was able to bob the point to stall. And based on where the payload is, there's definitely enough time that it would be much more worth it to hold onto that charge cooldown so that when you come out, you can utilize the charge as a damage tool to maybe catch somebody out. The Reaper is right there to the right, rezzed. Maybe your Ana could have slept him. Then you'd have that charge available to burst him down as opposed to using it as strictly a movement tool just to gain like what, 2 seconds of a little bit of speed advantage from the spawn room. McCree seems to get a huge dead eye, you get nanoed, and with the help of your ultimates, you actually do end up stalling, but definitely remember that for next time. It's one of those things I think about when I play Lucio, like should I amp out of spawn with speed boost to get back a little faster, or should I just come out as quick as I can and save that amp heal for the last second for the rest of my team? It all depends on the context of the situation, but in that case for sure, definitely should have held on to your charge and utilized it towards the point. Look for a pick. Now the enemy team regroups, you're holding this corner, I'm okay with this. Throw a little fire strike, get close to that earth shatter. You actually changed tanks. It looks like your duo switched to a Winston, so you no longer have that Zarya bubble to work with here, so you kind of have to play a little bit more defensive. So back up around the second corner here. This is fine. They're nano boosted, and now they got slept. And no. Wait. We do not charge nano targets. At least not that early into the sleep, and especially because it's a Reinhardt. A charge does 300 damage. With the nano boost, it reduces the damage in half, so that Rein would have only taken 150 damage off of that charge. And this is fresh into the nano and fresh into a sleep. Your on a sleep dart only lasts 5 seconds. Their nano boost is going to last 8 seconds. You want to waste as much time on that nano as possible. Let the full sleep duration elapse so that the Rein, when he wakes up, actually won't have that damage reduction applied to him anymore. Like sometimes you can charge a sleeping enemy nanoed Rein, but only if you can time that charge over a long distance, where that in the middle of the charge, the nano will run out, and then by the time you hit the wall, 300 burst damage will apply to the enemy Rein as opposed to 150. Because charging a nanoed Rein, again, 150 damage is nothing. Their enemy Ana just has to shoot that Rein twice to neutralize the amount of damage you just did to him. I totally think you should have played a bit more defensive, shield up, try to build that Earth Shatter, let the sleep elapse, and if you stayed with your team, you might have been able to protect them with your shield, because it looks like the enemy Junkrat got a double kill on the tire. With those kills, it looks like the enemy team is just going to win and control the third point here. So based off that snippet of gameplay, I've got a pretty good idea of your playstyle on Rein, and I have some takeaway notes for you. Number 1, I like the fact that you aren't afraid to take space. A lot of gold Reinhardts just stand at the choke and wait for someone else to make something happen, and I like that you're trying to be a playmaker. However, there's a fine line between aggression and feeding, and some decisions you made with like the odd aggressive flank on Hotel first point left your team to die. So the tip here is to play a bit more calculated on your playstyle. There needs to be a balance between aggression and defensive with your team. This seemed to be a bit too heavy on the aggressive side at the wrong times. Number 2, play with walls and Zarya bubbles. Rein is all about shield management. If that thing cracks and breaks, you're just a gigantic hitbox for the enemy. There were times where you positioned yourself so that your shield was getting spammed, your Zarya already bubbled you before, and there was no wall near you to break the enemy line of sight, and in some cases you actually broke your own support's line of sight to pocket you as well. Number 3, Rein charges. Those should be mostly reserved for being sneaky, or if it's a really short distance and there's no threat. Most of the charges I saw here, like the one on second point against Junk, didn't consider things like the Junk trap or an enemy ambush around that corner, or if your team was able to follow you up and help you. So be very careful with this ability on Rein. There's a reason why it's a meme when people say, unbind the charge key on this character. And that's it for this week. Be sure to subscribe to the channel up here and watch the other episodes of the series down here.